We live in a society that's very sensitive today. There's a great deal of polarity, a great deal of anguish. What is the role of the built environment in these issues? If you can create something that has value and authentic meaning to people, it's not just a postcard photograph of a building, but it's actually an authentic memory of something meaningful that happened to them. It will allow them to be perhaps more civilized in the world that they exist within.
If you don't use architecture to the best of human development, why would you do architecture? So that then becomes the tool, how to develop the architecture that is in the service of their communities and not in the service of necessarily the architect alone. Right now we have 14 projects under construction, 60 projects on the drawing table.
Lascaux is finishing soon.
Times Square is finishing up.
A new kitchen for Thomas Keller's French Laundry. We have a library in Philadelphia that is rather significant, under construction.
We're doing the Opera House in Busan, South Korea.
The San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. We opened a library in Toronto.
Center for World Culture in Saudi Arabia.
Working together with Francis Ford Coppola to recreate this great winery that existed for several centuries around his home in Napa.
We've just won our first project in Beirut.
And now we're working with Penn Station and Penn Plaza.
It's getting harder to not rely on the things you have done. Out of all buildings, when you're finished, you learn at least that you've become older.
Yes. So I don't think I have any more hair left to lose.
And in effect, that has a positive and a negative side. The positive side is you're more experienced. The negative side
you're more experienced.
is that you're more experienced with the things that you might not want to be experienced within, because it might limit you.
And the challenge with many design-focused companies is that the elder statespeople, as they get older, and traditionally speaking, tend to take on more and more control, and you see the work kind of wane because there's almost an overdoing of one or two types of thinking. In our office, we're regenerating new types of thinking with fresh eyes, and we're open to it. We recognize the value that each person brings to the table, and we make sure that, that their relevance is integrated into the process. Times Square, it's extremely complex. You have to work with multiple city, state, public agencies, private individuals, business operatives. All of these things, they all have to come together. Where we enjoy working with these projects is getting everybody to sit at the same table. Broadway and 7th Avenue have created a condition because of the increases of pedestrian traffic. It's very unsafe, very dangerous to be there. You had a great number of pedestrian fatalities, high crime rate, murder. By removing the vehicles, creating more space for people, we were able to reduce air pollutants, reduce crime, reduce pedestrian injuries and fatalities. Instead of wiping everything out and making something fresh and new, we decided to keep the streetness. So we chose a darker material so that you really felt that you were taking over the street and not just creating a new disconnected plaza space. We began work in New York City with the National September 11th Memorial Museum. As an American, I felt that if we could really embed culture into a memorial, this would be unique and give people something to respect.
So we knew that in itself would be a challenge, because quite obviously the content of the culture could work against the memorial effect.
Our work was primarily to bring a sense of presence as opposed to absence. We see people smiling, which was one of the things we thought we could be that was our goal. Our job was to get, at least one person to feel good about themselves in a different way than through solitude.
We're not preoccupied by, let's say, style, but we're definitely preoccupied with how we solve the issue at hand.
Psychological context is very important too. People think in certain ways in different climates, in different urban settings. We're trying very much to respond to these invisible things, acoustics, light, the things that you cannot see but have such an enormous effect on who you are.
There's no question that we wanted it to be recognizable as a MoMA. It's distinct in shape and in form.
Even though they had great attendance and their membership numbers were increasing and it had all the things that said this is a successful museum, they still took a step back and said, is this the best we can do? What are we missing? I think they recognized very quickly that to widen the audience base, to connect to more types of people. So its job would not only serve to create great experience with modern art, but also to create a place where people could see themselves with others having a meaningful experience together. In this building at SF MoMA, the stairs are quite a challenge.
The stairs that connect floor by floor is like sliding from one to the other without really knowing that you actually climbed 6 floors. How do you do that? By the location of the stairs, how you rest before you move into the stair, how you rest when you come out. There's sort of cleansing spaces before you move into the gallery space. It feels like a horizontal museum, although it is a vertical one.
Obviously, some people are challenged by the stairs. They get tired and they're not happy and they'd rather take the elevator, and that's fair enough. But many people actually stop on the way up the stairs, look around. I've seen couples get to the top of the stairs, turn around and look at what they just did together.
Put the flag.
Yeah. As you get to the top, the stairs get very narrow. You're actually forced to rub shoulders with strangers. You've had to socialize with people that you don't know. That somehow builds in ownership. Our work has been somehow focused on the subconscious, maybe more than the conscious world. The things that we do that we take for granted.
And I think that's what we can still do. It feels like a young company, although it's almost 30 years old.
When we built the Alexandria Library, we saw the collapse of the Soviet Union and the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Eventually, of course, the building became important during the Arab uprising in Egypt.
The public of Alexandria were holding hands around the library and actually protecting the building. It belonged to them. So the socially engaged company that we have today has its roots from how to deal with that particular project.
Our goal is to allow our buildings, our branding and graphic design, our interior architecture, our landscape design, all the things that we produce should have more value to people than its authors.